Buffalo, New York, in this predominantly African-American community with the objective to kill as many black people as he could. That was his objective. And so we need to make sure that the world knows that we have to respond to this act of terrorism. We intend to not only hold accountable this sick, depraved monster for his hateful act, but we intend to hold those responsible for the root of the hate. Yes. The people who curate the hate. Yes. The people who inspire the hate on websites and internet services and cable news stations. Those people who radicalize these young people to go out and orchestrate heinous acts of violence, heinous acts of hate. That is what we have to do. We have to get to the root of the hate. Because if we don't get to the root of the hate, then sadly, I believe we will be back here again grieving the loss of other innocent black people. And we continue to acknowledge that it was intended as an act of violence against black people for specific reasons. He said it in his manifesto. And we look at that manifesto, Joe, and you have to acknowledge everything that he put in there was inspired by these people who are trying to motivate these young people. You know, you think about this race replacement theory that he talked about in this manifesto. There are people who are pushing this hatred on these young people, indoctrinating their minds to go out and commit violence. I mean, these politicians who are trying to, use fear to inspire their base, to help get cable news ratings. It's these people who are accomplices to this mass murder. And Cliff, even though they may not have pulled the trigger, they did load the gun for this young white supremacist. They loaded the gun. And we have to hold them accountable too. We cannot let people continue to radicalize our young people to hate one another because the color of their skin. We're better than this, America, and we have to show the world that we're better than this. Because that's what Ruth Whitfield's spirit would command us to do as she looks down from heaven. To try to use this tragedy to inspire positive change, to inspire policy change, not just on the local level or the state level, but all over America. This is what Ruth Whitfield's spirit commands us to do, to inspire change. You know, this is an opportunity for us to try to finish the policy that was initiated when the young white supremacist Dylan Roof killed all those innocent black people in the church in Charleston, South Carolina, Angela. I mean, we talked about then having an anti-black hate crime bill passed by the U.S. Congress, but it stalled. And we saw last year, Stephanie, and we celebrated it, that they passed the anti-Asian hate bill. So maybe in the wake, Tiffany, of this tragedy here in Buffalo, New York, Raymond, just maybe, we can finally get the anti-black hate crime bill passed in the United States Congress in the spirit of these lost lives here in Buffalo, New York. We are imploring President Biden to use whatever influence he has to tell America we need to pass this bill because Black America is suffering right now. And we need to know that our top leaders in America react and respond when we are hurt too, like they acted and responded when others were hurt. I believe the anti-Asian hate crime bill passed with very little resistance. And so I expect the Democratic leadership to push forward this anti-black hate crime bill with the same conviction. It is only appropriate. It is only right. This is the spirit of Ruth Whitfield talking to do something positive in the wake of all this pain. And as I get ready to introduce you to Attorney Connors, I just want to say on behalf of Garnell and Raymond and Angela and Robin and all of Ruth Whitfield's family, especially Mr. Whitfield Sr.,
yes,
that Ruth Whitfield was a person of love. And we won't let this act of hate define this person of love. Her family will define her legacy. Her family will remember her for the love that she instilled in them, in this community, and in this world. Her legacy will be a legacy of love, not hate. That is the legacy of Ruth Whitfield. And her children, in just a few minutes, will tell you why that is so important, America, why that is so important. At this time, I'm going to introduce you to a great lawyer who many of you here in Buffalo, New York know very well throughout the state of New York. He is a great lawyer and a prince of a man. Attorney Terry Connors is somebody who is a stakeholder in this community. And he's going to be a person who, along with the Whitfield family, helped bring healing to Buffalo, New York. I give you Attorney Terry Connors to talk about the legal strategies that we're going to put forth. Attorney Connors.
As great an honor as it is to stand next to Ben Crump as he fights for justice for this family, as high a privilege as that for me in my career, over the last 2 days, I have learned there is a greater honor. There is a higher privilege. And that honor and that privilege is to work for this family, is to help this family find some answers that they so desperately want and that they are so desperately entitled to. That, to me, is the culmination of my career, the ability to answer those questions, to answer why is it that an 18-year-old with a mental health history can buy an AR-15? Why does that happen? Not just in this state, but throughout the country. Why is it that that same person can travel across state lines and buy a high-velocity magazine that shoots 70 rounds of bullets to kill? No other reason. Hollow point bullets designed to kill. Why is it that that can happen in this day and age? Haven't we seen enough tragedy? Haven't we seen enough sorrow and pain? Look at the pain on this stage. But when Ben said we're going to do a root analysis, he's right. We're going to drill down on those issues. We're going to get to a root cause. Because we're not only going to look at what the monster did on that fated day, we're going to look at what happened along the way. What red flags were ignored? Why is it that this was able to accomplish? How did this evil get so far in its journey? We're going to get to the bottom of it.
We're going to get to the bottom of it.
We're going to find out those answers because these people, they deserve these answers. They need to know why a woman who led a miraculous career, she was so valued. As we speak over on the east side of Buffalo near Tops, so many people come up to us and tell us stories about Ruth and tell us what she did and the commitment she had to this community and to this family. She should never have had to die that way. And if we can do anything as lawyers to stop that, we're going to do it. So stay tuned.
Amen. Thank you so much, Attorney Connors. And now you will hear from another great lawyer who I told you was born here in Buffalo, and this is just as personal to him as it is to Attorney Connors and Attorney Zimmerman and everybody working on our legal team on this matter. Attorney Ken Abano is no stranger to standing up for those victims who need to have some sense of accountability, and he's going to talk to you about that for a few minutes. Attorney Ken Abano, great lawyer, born in Buffalo.
I'm truly humbled to be standing here today, being asked to help the Whitfield family through this horrible act. It's a senseless, preventable act of destruction and violence. Preventable is the key word. I've been practicing law almost 30 years now, and what I never thought was that I would be back in my hometown talking about such a horrible event. All of the signs were there.
Yeah.
We can tell that now, with only less than 48 hours since this tragedy. All of the red flags that Terry talked about. We will find more. What we also need to find out is how the tools are allowed to get in monsters' hands. We keep hearing about, we're going to stop it, we're going to stop it, we're going to fix it. And then people do not have the courage to actually follow through on that. And when people don't have the courage to enact the laws, to stop the ability for the tools of destruction to get into monsters' hands, we see this. An indescribable feeling of pain and sorrow that will never, ever, ever go away. Our goal and our mission is to find out how we prevent that next event from happening. And we will not stop. We will not stop until that happens. Mr. Crump goes all around the country trying to prevent this from happening by trying to seek justice and hold people accountable.
Amen.
That is our goal. That is our mission. And we as a nation need to have the strength and the courage. The people that we elect into offices need to start to have the strength and the courage to stop this from happening. No more rhetoric. We need action. We're here to put that into motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Before I bring the family, I just look at her great-granddaughters here. What do we tell our children, America, about these senseless acts of violence based on hate? That's what this day is about, to give a voice to the people who have morals, to say that we won't let hate overtake us that we will find the morality in the best of us to overcome this hate. That's what it is about. I mean, you have Tiffany and the granddaughter, and you have the great-granddaughters here. It is just hard for this family. You're going to hear about the things they're agonizing with, how they tell Mr. Garnell Whitfield Sr. about this tragedy and how they have to pray because they haven't figured that out yet. So, and as I bring Garnell Jr. up, just know, as Attorney Urbano said, how preventable this was. Reports are coming out now that last year, this young white supremacist threatened to shoot up his school. And they put him in confinement for a day and a half, and then they let him go. And so how does that person, as Attorney Connors said, get to purchase an AR-15? We gotta do something about this, America. And we got to get to the root of it. It's not enough to just blame the people who pull the triggers. No, we got to blame the people who loading the guns. All these people who are talking about this race replacement theory, radicalizing these young, impressionable minds to go out and do irrational acts because they know they have an irrational audience and they're just trying to play on their fear.
That's right.
That's what they're doing, playing on their fear and emotion.
Yeah.
And if we don't get to the root of it, how many more tragedies do we have to see of black people being killed innocently by white supremacists, by white, Hispanic people being killed like down in Texas, like Jewish people being killed in New York by these white supremacists being radicalized. You know, when Osama bin Laden radicalized people do hateful things, we treat it like a terrorist act, and nobody condones it. So why are certain people in our society trying to condone this replacement theory, this race replacement theory? It's not right. And we have to be better than that, America. Let's pass this anti-black hate crime bill immediately. At this time, you're going to hear from Miss Ruth's children do the best they can and bear their heart. And it's going to be hard. We expect it to be emotional, and we thank you for understanding if they become overcome with emotion. If it were you, would you be even able to stand? I know I wouldn't. So I just applaud them for being able to come and tell you about Ruth Whitfield and what she is inspiring all of us to do. You're going to hear from her son, who was the fire commissioner for the city of Buffalo, New York, Mr. Garnell Whitfield Jr., an incredible citizen for this community. I can stand with him.
Obviously, there are no words that come to mind that fit this occasion. As we stand here as a family, forever changed, forever damaged, forever without the person who held us together throughout our entire life. As we stand here wondering why, as we stand here wondering what we're going to do, as we're brought together at a time such as this, there's nothing we can do that's going to take away the hurt, take away these tears, take away the pain, take away the hole in our hearts, because part of us is gone, senselessly taken from us by hate. And we're talking about somebody. What I remember most about my mom, what I loved most about my mom is how she loved us, how she loved our family unconditionally, how she sacrificed everything for us, how she gave of herself when she had nothing else to give. She willingly did that for us. And for her to be taken from us and taken from this world by someone that just full of hate for no reason, is very hard for us to handle right now. You know, we make no apologies for our suffering and our pain. You can see it. Yeah. We're not going to apologize for that. But we're not just hurting. We're angry. Yeah. We're mad. This shouldn't have happened.
No, it shouldn't.
We do our best to be good citizens, to be good people. We believe in God. We trust Him. Right. We treat people with decency. And we love even our enemies. And you expect us to keep doing this over and over and over again. Over again. Forgive and forget. While the people we elect and trust in offices around this country do their best not to protect us, not to consider us equal, not to love us back. What are we supposed to do with all of this anger, with all of this pain? I can tell you, this was not easy decision for us to go public with this at a time. We're a private family. This was not easy for us. But how else could we honor our mother? How else could we uphold the things that she put in us, the things she believed in? How else could we do that?
Yes, Lord.
So we are very thankful for the support of Mr. Crump and his associates and anybody else who sees this as an injustice. Yeah. And we're doing this because we hope in some small way to contribute to some positive change, to take this anger and this hole in our hearts and make sure it doesn't happen to somebody else. Oh, tell them about your mom. My mom, on that day was like every other day for my mom. My mom got up that morning and she went up to High Point, up to the nursing home, to care for the love of her life, my father. 68 years they're married. He's in that nursing home for the last 8 years, and every day she went there to care for him, to make sure that he had a quality of life, to do what nobody else could do for him. She did that. When she didn't feel like it, she did it. And she didn't feel like it on this past day either. But she did it anyway. She left there to get groceries on the way home. And she encountered this evil, hateful. She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. How can we just sit here? You guys are out here covering this. What are we going to do to change it? How do we hold people accountable if you don't help us? We're thankful that you're here. But it's just not some story to drive the news cycle. This is our mother. This is our lives. We need help. We're asking you to help us. Help us change this. This can't keep happening. I can go on and on. I can go on and on talking about my mother. How she loved us. What she did for us. How we're going to miss her. We have no answers. What do we tell our father? We don't even know. He doesn't know. What do we tell him? How do we tell him the love of his life? His primary caretaker, the person who kept him alive for the last 8 years. How do we tell her that she's gone? Not just that she's gone, but she's gone at the hands of a white supremacist, of a terrorist, of an evil person who's allowed to live among us and keep perpetuating this madness. How do we tell him that? What do we do to treat him in a manner consistent with what he's used to going forward without her? None of us can take her place. That's what we're left with. This is not going to stop. Now, we got to live the rest of our lives with this. So it's our hope and our prayer that with the help and assistance of Mr. Crump and others, that we can make some positive change and shed light on this evil, this cancer that is growing amongst us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garnell, for bearing your heart. Next, you will hear from the youngest son of Ruth Whitfield, Raymond Whitfield, who's going to bear his heart and tell you about his mother. Raymond. And y'all try to offer support to him if you can. Stand near him if you can.
What can I add to that except that it happened early on a Sunday morning. I was brought into the world on Mother's Day. My mother shared with me over the years that I was the best gift ever, but I couldn't protect her on that day. I bear an extra burden because years later, okay, in my career, I took my parents with me to New York, where I worked, and we bought a house and we lived together in New York. Then we moved to California. And you know why we came back? Because she loved all of us, not just me, that much. She was happy there, okay? Yes, sir. And this was their home. This was Buffalo. She came back to Buffalo. And I just wanted to be known that she taught us to be unapologetically, for those people who do not see us, how dare you not see us as American? We stand here on the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors. Right. And she taught us to be proud of that fact.
Amen.
Okay?
Proud to be.
She was unapologetically an African American princess.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
And all else I can say is that many a times when we were together, she watched these channels, these news channels, religiously, all day, fretting for the world, okay? And many times I sat with her watching, and too many times we watched this man fight these same battles with other families, standing behind them, trying to fight back tears and pain. And we sat there and sometimes we wept with them.
Yes, sir.
But you know what? After the cameras was over and we had to go on with our lives, we got to wipe away those tears and go on with our day to day. But this time, there's no wiping away these tears. There's no walking on with life. So I say to you, what are you willing to do so that the next time it's not you standing here before your broken-hearted family? What are you willing to do? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raymond. And that's what Garnell told me. Never thought it would be them. Never thought it would be them. And that's what many of these families are saying. These families who suffered this tragic loss. Never thought it would be them. She was unsure whether she was going to speak today, but she has agreed to speak because her mother's spirit touched her. You're going to hear from a daughter of Ruth Whitfield, Miss Robin. And her husband is also here to help support her, and her sister Angela. We all with you.
Good afternoon. like he said, I wasn't going to speak. But as I look out and I see all of you, I felt the need to let you know my mom was my best friend. We went fishing together. We went camping together. And you know, black people don't usually camp, but we did. Yeah. And I'm going to miss that. He took away my mother and my best friend. How dare you? How dare you? This needs to be fixed. ASAP.
Amen.
Mom, we love you. Thank you.
We love you, Mom. I too just want to also say that we loved our mother. She was an 86-year-old powerhouse. She was beautiful, she was immaculate, and she loved us. There's people used to joke and say our family reminded them of the Cleavers.
They did.
Because even though we lived in the city, we weren't allowed to be of the city. And that was, we didn't understand it then, but we do now. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dad, we love you. And I don't know.
It's okay.
We're going to be there for you. I thank Mr. Crump and his associates. And I also thank you all because this gives me a hope that something will change. Something has to change.
Has to change.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Angela. And that's the spirit of Miss Ruth working, because Angela said she was not going to be able to say something, but you did beautiful for your mother, Angela. And Robin, thank you all so much. I don't know if there's any grandkids. And Tiffany, her granddaughter, I'm sorry, Camilla, Tiffany, if you want to, okay. Camilla, her granddaughter.
I wrote this down because I know I can't even think straight.
Take your time.
If I had to use one word to describe my grandmother, it would be devoted. She was a devoted grandmother, mother, and wife, still taking care of my grandfather, even on days she was in pain herself. And she gave so much of herself to her family. She loves cooking big meals and sharing food with us, and we will always remember her for her food, especially her macaroni and cheese and her pound cake. And we keep a tradition of having Sunday dinners that started with her at her house. She loved shopping and always made sure to look her best. If she saw a dress or a shirt or a purse or anything that she thought would look good on you, she would not hesitate to bring it home to you. And she was somebody you could talk to without worrying about being judged at all.
Wow.
Such a good listener. And she would choose her words wisely before she responded and speak love into any situation that you had going on.
Wow.
My baby is 17 months old, and she was building such a beautiful relationship with her. She was our downstairs neighbor, and every time we came or went, she would knock on her door for a hug or a kiss. And I just try to walk so fast in and out the house now so that she doesn't try to stop. And she will be missed. We love you, Grandmommy. Okay.
Thank you so much, Camila. Thank you. And they all said they wouldn't be able to speak, and because of the spirit of Miss Ruth, they are speaking. I believe Miss Ruth is speaking through her children and her grandchildren. And Tiffany, I acknowledge you. I know you have a lot to say, and when the time comes. Okay. At this time, we'll try to take your questions as best we can. Obviously, this family is completely devastated. As Gardner said, he's still in disbelief that this happened to his mama. And I guess it bear witness, if we don't do something about it, like Raymond and Robin and Angela, and he said, it could be your mama next. We have to do something on the federal level to prevent this from happening. Not one more black life, not one more Hispanic life, not one more Jewish life, not one more Asian life, not one more human being should be taken from this earth because of white supremacy, because of hatred, because of racism. We have to do something about this, America. We have to do something about it. Pass the anti-black hate crime bill immediately. We'll take your questions. Yeah, I'll have Attorney Connor and Attorney Barno speak to that now.
Well, we're absolutely going to look at filing legal action. We're going to investigate the facts, and as Ben said earlier, we're going to do a root cause analysis. And that's going to involve some investigative, some digging deep to get to the bottom of this, because the objective here is to stop this evil conduct before it occurs. And if we hold those who are responsible, those who loaded the gun, as Ben told you, we may have a chance. We just may have a chance to save one or more individuals. And that's what we're going to do.
You know, that bears drawing emphasis too, because it really is, we always talk about who pulled the trigger, but we really need to start focusing on who loaded the gun. And it is politicians who fail to act, or politicians who are trying to build their base based on fear, and it's these websites and this internet sites, these cable news pundits who are talking about this race replacement theory. They're accomplices to this murder. And if we don't start holding them accountable, then you don't have to worry about who this young white supremacist was today, because there'll be another one tomorrow who is radicalized to go into a black neighborhood or a black church or a black grocery store or, for God forbid, a black school, and do just what this monster said, kill as many black people as he could. We have to draw attention to this, to say the root of the problem is these people who are inspiring this hate. We're looking at trying to hold everybody accountable who had a responsibility in loading that gun. And that's why we're investigating, because we're going to be looking at everybody. Now, we can't say now because we're investigating everybody. We're reading through that 180-page manifesto, and we're trying to connect the dots on where he pulled stuff from. We would like to see them use that law. We also would like them to use the terrorist laws that they charge and convict terrorists of, because this was a terrorist act. It is no less a terrorist act because it was a black grocery store. This was a domestic terrorist act, just like they did in Oklahoma City bombing and all the other terrorist acts like Columbine and Parkland. This is just as bad, and we should not have it have one less degree of any respect and consideration because it was a black grocery store. I think the family is prepared to demand positive change on behalf of Ruth Whitfield.
Without question.
Without a question.
They're ready.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, somebody had a question, I interrupted. Was it you? You had the question and I interrupted you.
Yeah. Well, those lawsuits can be filed in either jurisdiction. It's dependent upon the nature of the cause of action and the theory. That will dictate where it is that it will be filed. But make no mistake about it, that's jurisdiction. Venue will be in Western New York. Venue will be where these people suffered the greatest hurt, where they lost their mother and their...
And Attorney Connors has some success that was precedent setting when he was able to hold a gun manufacturer responsible on a previous case.
A number of years ago, a young man was shooting baskets out in front of his house, all by himself. Wasn't a gangbanger, wasn't anything to do with it. He was a good kid who had a future in college basketball. And someone drove by, mistaken identity, shot him through and through with a bullet. And that person was prosecuted, but we didn't stop there. We went after the retailer, the manufacturer, the gun show. We went after all of them, and they tried. The gun industry and the gun lobby is strong, and they fought us for years. But we succeeded by getting their summary judgment denied at an appellate level. It's now a precedent right here in the 4th Department in Rochester. A law review article was written about it. It enabled us to move forward and force them on the steps of the courthouse to pay the entire policy to resolve this case for this young man, who is now married with a child and a wonderful family. Father was a hero in the Army. We were so happy to deliver that justice to him, and we hope to deliver that kind of justice to the Whitfield family. Gary? Yeah, there are some similarities with our fact pattern, which is still being developed. We're doing investigation right now, even as you speak. There's 3 law firms looking at this, so once the fact pattern gets defined, we'll be able to determine exactly what the theories are and can go forward.
Any other questions? Joe?
As it relates to the manufacturer and Bushmaster in particular, we're going to look at a pattern and a practice, and we're also going to look at all of the other ways that manufacturers could keep these arms out of monsters' hands. We talk about the tools. That is the tool. How is it that those tools can come into everyone's hands that seem to want them? They talk of background checks. They talk of the ability to try and limit the use of these, and they're failing. And we need accountability for those failures. As for the immunities...
Yeah, I'm so sick and tired of the gun industry waving that immunity in the face of such tragedy. Waving that immunity in the face of the horror that's brought. They challenged us on the immunity, and we told them there's 6 exemptions to that immunity in that statute. And we're going to find one of those exemptions, and then we're going to litigate this case and see how immune they really are.
Connecticut.
We are looking at the Sandy Hook Remington situation and how they were able to hold the gun manufacturer accountable. Similarly here, we are going to digest and find all of the facts available to draw similarities and parallels to that, because they're more likely than not are parallels, similarities, the way these guns are advertised and such. So we will be looking at that.
New York has what's called a red flag law, and believe me, there was rejoicing when that law was passed. It's not that old. The problem with the red flag laws, it doesn't mean anything. If the red flags pop up and no one pays attention to them and you don't follow up on them, it's a worthless piece of legislation. We need to give life to that legislation, and we'll do it through Ruth Whitfield.
Amen. Any other questions? Yes, sir. You know, that's why we're looking to our leadership on the highest levels to be responsive to this. This was an act of domestic terrorists. America responds to terrorism at every level, and they need to do that here. And that's what I said earlier about just because it was a black grocery store doesn't make it any less God-awful than any of the other massacres, whether it's Columbine, Parkland, Oklahoma City bombing. No, this tragedy, now we know, it's been the second one since South Carolina shooting tragedy, now this, and there were many other smaller ones in between, but these two were significant. And so we expect everybody from the President to the United States Congress to respond to this act of terrorism like it was an act of terrorism. Well, Ruth Whitfield family gives me hope by standing here having the courage to demand action. We have to have hope because our children matter. We can't give up because you saw these granddaughters and these great-granddaughters. We have to have hope to fight for them, and we will fight for them. And that's why we're saying we want to get to the root problem of the hate. The root of the hate wasn't him pulling the trigger. The root of the hate was all of those responsible for loading that gun. We are investigating everybody who had a website, all these theories that this 18-year-old radicalized white supremacist pulled from. And, you know, he talked about all those things we now used to only hear from the far-right fringes, but now you're starting to hear it in mainstream media and with mainstream politicians, and it's just sickening. It's just sickening, America, that we are trying to condone hate. We're better than that. We're supposed to be the beacon for hope and democracy. We can't condone this hate. The world is watching. Any last questions? Well, we're going to look at everything. We're going to explore every possible legal remedy that is possible to hold them accountable. You know, there was a black woman with the Southern Poverty Law Center that held the Ku Klux Klan responsible for the murder of her son. So there's some precedent in America for holding hate groups responsible for violent acts. Thank you all. We will keep you informed. And please pray for Ruth Whitfield family as they mourn her loss and try to figure out how they're going to tell Garnell Whitfield Sr. about the love of his life being killed by hate. Hold on, spelling the names, family, before y'all leave. I'm sorry. Can you tell it? Because everybody's trying to get it for the. Okay.
Lauren Gibson, Laurel Robertson. You're the daughter, and Laurel Robertson.
No, she's granddaughter.
Laurel granddaughter.
Miss Robin, what's your last name again?
Harris.
Robin Harris. Robin Harris. Yes, daughter. And Miss Angela, last name?
I'm the oldest daughter.
Angela Crowley, C-R-A-W-L-E-Y?
Yes.
C-R-A-W.
I have 3 daughters.
Yeah, and she has a lot of other grandchildren that are still coming into town because they haven't made it. The family wants to. I apologize. I think it was okay. All right. Okay. Just so we can get names for the photo captions, they want to just get everybody to say and spell their name if they would. Okay. Miss Robin, can you say and spell your name?
My name is Robin Harris, ROBINHARRIS. I am the eldest daughter. I am 67 and proud of it, okay?
Okay. Miss Angela.
My name is Angela Crawley, ANGELA CRAWLEY, and I am 63. And I also have 3 gorgeous daughters who love their grandmother, and she loved them, and they are not here yet, but I love you guys, and we're going to get through this thing.
Raymond, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, Whitfield. I am the youngest son, age 62, as of Mother's Day.
Lauren Gibson, LAURENGIBSON.
Gibson.
I am Laurel Robertson, LAURELL.
Robin, great granddaughter.
Tiffany Whitfield. I'm the oldest granddaughter. TIFFANY WHITFIELD.
And y'all got Garnell Whitfield. Okay. Terry, if y'all can spell y'all.
C-O-N-N-O-R-S, very easy.
Okay. And I'm sorry, your first name?
T-E-R-R-Y.
Okay. Attorney Abano.
Ken Abarno, A-B-B-A-R-N-O.
Okay. And Reverend Cole?
That's evident.
Pastor Kevin Coakley, K-E-V-I-N-C-O-A-K-L-E-Y.
Okay. Thank you all. Attorney Ben Crump, B-E-N, Crump, C as in Charlie, R-U-M-P as in Paul. Garnell, can you spell Camila's name?
Yes. Camila is a granddaughter. My daughter, K-A-M-I-L-A-H, Whitfield.
Press that, bencrump.com. Bencrump.com. We'll get the photos that the family have got electronically sent to you. Press at bencrump.com. Thank you all.